thought my marriage of 5 years was the pinnacle of happiness. Then, during a critical business trip to Seattle, my calls started going straight to voicemail. My texts bounced back undelivered. For 2 whole weeks, my wife Allison had completely blocked my number without warning. The anxiety nearly broke me, but nothing compared to the devastating truth I discovered behind her digital vanishing act. When I finally understood why she had erased me from her life, I made the hardest decision to permanently block her from my future. Before I continue this story, let me know where you are watching from, and hit subscribe if you have ever been betrayed like I was. My name is Gabriel. At 35, I had built a successful life as a software engineer in Boston with a comfortable 6-figure salary and a job I genuinely enjoyed. 5 years ago, I met Allison at a tech product launch event in downtown Boston. She was 30, vibrant, and worked in marketing for a competing tech company. The moment our eyes locked across that crowded exhibition hall, something electric passed between us. It sounds cliché, but it truly was love at first sight. "I noticed you kept looking at our display," she said when she approached me, a confident smile playing on her lips. "Is it the product you are interested in, or something else?" Her boldness captivated me. We ended up talking until the venue staff practically kicked us out. What struck me most was how much we had in common. Our passion for hiking, our love for obscure indie films, even our shared dream of eventually starting our own business together. 8 months of intense dating later, I proposed on a sunset sailing trip around Boston Harbor. She cried, said yes, and we planned a beautiful ceremony at Cape Cod the following spring. Our wedding day remains one of the happiest memories of my life. Surrounded by 120 friends and family members, we exchanged vows under a white canopy with the Atlantic Ocean as our backdrop. Allison looked breathtaking in her fitted lace gown, and I remember thinking I was the luckiest man alive. After the honeymoon in Italy, we bought our first home together, a charming colonial in a Boston suburb with the backyard garden Allison had always wanted. We spent weekends planting flowers, hosting barbecues, and talking about our future children. We decided to wait 2 years before starting a family, giving us time to advance in our careers first. I supported her ambition to become a marketing director, and she encouraged my dream of leading a development team. Looking back, I wonder how something that began so perfectly could unravel so completely. The first signs of trouble surfaced during our 2nd year of marriage. My company landed a major contract with a healthcare provider, which meant longer hours and occasionally working weekends. I always communicated these obligations to Allison and tried to make up for my absence with special date nights and surprise gifts. But Allison began to change. She would grow cold and distant whenever my work demanded extra attention. If we disagreed about something rather than discussing it, she would give me the silent treatment, sometimes for days. Her silent punishment felt manipulative, but I told myself she just needed different ways to process conflict. The breaking point of that year came when I had to cancel our anniversary trip to Hawaii. The healthcare project faced critical security issues that required my immediate attention. With deep regret, I explained the situation to Allison, promising to reschedule as soon as the crisis passed. "You always choose work over me," she screamed, hurling a framed photo of us across the room. The glass shattered against the wall, a jagged metaphor for what was happening to our marriage. She stormed out and stayed with her friend Samantha for 2 days. When she finally returned, I apologized profusely, even though I felt I had done nothing wrong but fulfill my professional obligations. She accepted my apology coldly, but things were never quite the same after that. Financial disagreements added another layer of tension. Despite our comfortable dual-income, credit card statements revealed Allison regularly overspent on designer clothes, expensive restaurant meals with friends, and impulsive online shopping sprees. When I suggested creating a budget, she accused me of controlling her and counting every penny. These discussions inevitably ended with her grabbing her keys and driving off, returning hours later pretending nothing had happened. Despite these growing issues, I remained committed to our marriage. I suggested couples counseling, hoping a neutral third party could help us communicate better. Allison reluctantly agreed, and we found a well-recommended therapist named Dr. Winters. The first 3 sessions seemed promising. Allison participated, acknowledged some communication problems, and we established some ground rules for arguments. I felt hopeful that we were making progress. That hope was shattered during our 4th session, when Dr. Winters gently pointed out that disappearing during conflicts was an unhealthy pattern. "I'm not paying to be attacked," Allison snapped, grabbing her purse and walking out mid-session. No amount of convincing could get her to return to therapy after that. To keep the peace, I dropped the subject of counseling. For a few weeks, Allison seemed to make an effort, leaving sweet notes in my lunch bag and initiating intimacy that had become increasingly rare. Encouraged by these small improvements, I secretly planned a special anniversary trip to Paris for our 4th year together, hoping to rekindle the spark that had initially brought us together. The Seattle project came at a crucial point in my career. My boss had handpicked me to lead the implementation of our software system for a major healthcare network, with strong hints that a promotion to senior development manager awaited me upon successful completion. The assignment would require 6 weeks on site, the longest Allison and I had ever been apart. "This is a big opportunity, but I will not take it if you are not comfortable with me being away that long," I told her one evening over dinner. She surprised me with her supportive response. "This is what you have been working toward. Take the project, and we will make the distance work. We can video chat every evening." Relieved and grateful for her understanding, I accepted the assignment. The first week in Seattle went smoothly. I called Allison every night around 9 o'clock, sharing details about my day and listening to updates about her life back home. She seemed genuinely interested in my project and sent flirty texts throughout the day that made me miss her terribly. On the 8th day of my trip, something strange happened. My morning text went unanswered. I called during my lunch break, but the call went straight to voicemail. By evening, after multiple failed attempts to reach her, panic began to set in. Had something happened to her? Was she in an accident? Sick in the hospital? My imagination conjured horrifying scenarios as I frantically called our neighbors and mutual friends. Finally, I reached Samantha, Allison's closest friend. "Oh, Allison is fine," Samantha said, her tone oddly uncomfortable. She mentioned needing some space. I thought you knew. The relief that she was physically safe quickly gave way to confusion and hurt. Space. Without even telling me. Why would she block my number during such an important work trip? "Can you ask her to call me? Just to let me know she is okay," I pleaded. "I will try," Samantha promised, though something in her voice suggested she knew more than she was saying. For the next 2 weeks, I continued my work in Seattle while carrying a heavy knot of anxiety in my chest. My colleagues noticed my distraction and the dark circles under my eyes from sleepless nights. I felt humiliated having to make excuses for why my wife was unreachable. Some nights, I would stare at my phone for hours, willing it to ring, sending emails that received no response. Unable to focus and worried something was seriously wrong, I decided to fly home 3 days early. Without telling anyone, I landed in Boston around 10 o'clock at night and took a rideshare directly to our house, rehearsing what I would say to Allison. Would she be relieved to see me angry? I had no idea what to expect. As the car pulled onto our street around midnight, I noticed an unfamiliar black Audi parked in front of our house. Strange, but not necessarily alarming. Perhaps a neighbor had visitors. I quietly unlocked the front door, hearing soft music and laughter coming from our living room. What I saw next burned itself permanently into my memory. Allison curled up on our couch, wine glass in hand, laughing intimately with a tall, dark-haired man I had never seen before. They were sitting close, too close. His arm draped casually around her shoulders, her head tilted toward him in a gesture of familiarity that made my stomach turn. They both jumped when I cleared my throat. The man quickly stood up, looking between Allison and me with wide, guilty eyes. "Gabriel." "You are home early," Allison exclaimed, her surprise poorly masking what looked like irritation. "Who is this?" I asked, my voice unnaturally calm despite the earthquake happening inside me. "Jake is just an old college friend who was in town," Allison explained smoothly. "We were catching up." "Jake, this is my husband, Gabriel." Jake mumbled something about needing to leave and quickly exited our house, avoiding eye contact with me. The moment the door closed behind him, I turned to Allison. "College friend. Is that why you blocked my number for 2 weeks? To spend time with an old college friend?" She denied blocking me, claiming her phone must have malfunctioned. Exhausted from travel and emotional turmoil, I decided to continue the conversation after some rest. While Allison showered the next morning, a notification flashed on our shared iPad that she had forgotten to log out from. The message preview showed a text from someone named Jake. "Last night was amazing. Cannot wait until he leaves again." My hands trembling, I opened the message thread and discovered hundreds of exchanges between them dating back 3 months, long before my Seattle trip. Plans for secret meetups, intimate photos, complaints about me and my boring personality. The messages revealed they had reconnected through Facebook and had been meeting at hotels, restaurants, even in our home when I worked late. For hours, I sat paralyzed on our bed, scrolling through irrefutable evidence of betrayal. I discovered hotel receipts, charges for expensive dinners, and a credit card statement showing a bracelet purchased from Tiffany, a gift for Jake bought with our joint account. Further digging revealed a secret credit card Allison had opened in her name with an outstanding balance of $28,000. Luxury purchases and weekend getaways I knew nothing about. When Allison finally emerged from her home office that evening, I confronted her with what I had found. Her reaction followed a predictable pattern. First denial, then minimizing. It was just flirting before finally shifting to blaming me. "You were never here," she shouted. "Always working, always distracted. What did you expect me to do?" "Jake makes me feel desired, appreciated." "I have always appreciated you," I countered, my voice breaking. "I worked hard for our future together, for the family we planned to have." "Plans, plans, always future plans," she mocked. "Jake lives in the present. He knows how to make a woman feel special now." Her words cut deep, but worse was the realization that she showed no genuine remorse, only anger at being caught. That night I slept in the guest room, staring at the ceiling until dawn broke, wondering how 5 years of marriage could disintegrate so completely in a single day. The next morning, with bloodshot eyes but a clear mind, I presented Allison with an ultimatum: cut all contact with Jake immediately, and commit to marriage counseling or our relationship was over. After hours of tearful arguments, she finally agreed, deleting Jake's contact information from her phone while I watched. "I made a terrible mistake," she said, reaching for my hand. "Please give me another chance to be the wife you deserve." Despite the gaping wound of betrayal, a small part of me wanted to believe her. We scheduled an emergency session with a new therapist, Dr. Brennan, who specialized in infidelity recovery. The first 2 sessions were intense, but seemingly productive. Allison appeared genuinely contrite, taking responsibility for her actions and expressing deep regret. I got caught up in the excitement and attention she admitted during our second session. "But I know now what I almost threw away, and I will do anything to rebuild your trust." I wanted to believe her. God, how I wanted to believe. We started going on regular date nights again. Dinner at our favorite Italian restaurant, a weekend trip to a coastal bed and breakfast. I even surprised her with concert tickets to see her favorite band. For a few weeks it felt like we were dating again, rediscovering what had brought us together initially. On our monthly anniversary, a small milestone we had always celebrated, I splurged on a luxury watch Allison had admired months earlier. It was extravagant, but I saw it as an investment in our future, a symbol of my commitment to moving forward together. I planned to give it to her during a special dinner that weekend. That Thursday, Allison mentioned her sister Caroline needed help moving furniture and asked if I would mind if she spent the weekend in Providence with her. Of course, I encouraged her to go, happy to see her prioritizing family relationships that had suffered during her affair with Jake. "You are the best husband," she said, kissing me goodbye on Friday morning. "I will make it up to you when I get back Sunday night." That same afternoon, my colleague Derek called me. "Man, I am sorry to bother you with this," he began awkwardly, "but I just saw Allison at the Charles Hotel in Cambridge with some guy. They looked pretty friendly. I thought you should know." The Charles Hotel was one of Boston's most exclusive properties, known for its discretion and luxury. It was also an hour away from Providence, where Allison was supposedly helping her sister. With my heart pounding painfully in my chest, I thanked Derek and hung up. I tried calling Caroline, who confirmed what I already suspected. She had no plans with Allison this weekend and had not spoken to her sister in weeks. Without allowing myself to think too much about what I was doing, I got in my car and drove the 3 hours to the Charles Hotel, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. The hotel's upscale restaurant was dimly lit and intimate, perfect for couples seeking privacy. It took less than a minute to spot them. Allison and Jake seated at a corner table, holding hands across the white tablecloth, laughing over what appeared to be an expensive bottle of champagne. But what truly destroyed me was seeing the glint of metal on Jake's wrist. He was wearing a men's version of the exact watch I had purchased for Allison, clearly a matching set. I stood frozen, watching them for several long minutes, neither noticing my presence. When the waiter brought their dessert, a single plate with 2 spoons, I finally approached the table. "Helping your sister move furniture?" I asked quietly. Allison's face drained of color. Jake looked between us uncomfortably. "Gabriel," she stammered. "I can explain. This is not what it looks like. It looks like you are wearing matching watches and sharing dessert with the man you promised never to see again." I replied, surprising myself with how steady my voice sounded despite the hurricane of emotions inside. "It looks like you lied to me. Again. You are always working." She suddenly snapped her shock, transforming instantly to aggression. "Jake actually makes time for me. He values me, not just what I can contribute to some 5-year plan." Other diners were beginning to stare, but I no longer cared about creating a scene. With deliberate calmness, I took out my phone, navigated to my contacts, and with Allison watching, blocked her number. "What are you doing?" she demanded. "The same thing you did to me in Seattle," I answered. "Except I am not just blocking your number. I am blocking you from my future. Permanently." I walked away without looking back, ignoring her calls of my name, that grew increasingly panicked as I crossed the restaurant. Outside in the cool night air, I took my first deep breath in what felt like years. Something had broken inside me. But something else, something stronger, had finally awakened. That night, I checked into a roadside motel, halfway between Boston and our home. I needed neutral ground to think clearly without the memories our house contained. Sitting on the edge of a sagging mattress, I finally confronted the truth. I had been avoiding my marriage was not worth saving. For hours, I sat in that sterile room processing the depth of Allison's betrayal. It was not just the affair. It was the elaborate lies, the gaslighting, the emotional manipulation that had slowly eroded my self-worth over years. I realized I had been walking on eggshells in my own marriage, constantly apologizing for imagined offenses, accepting blame for her unhappiness. At 3 a.m, I called James Thompson, a lawyer friend who specialized in family law. "I hate to wake you," I began when he answered. "Gabriel, what is wrong?" He sounded alert despite the hour. "I need to divorce my wife, as quickly and cleanly as possible." James listened without interruption as I explained the situation. When I finished, his advice was clear. Document everything. Secure your finances. Find somewhere else to stay. And do not engage with her directly anymore. The next day, I followed his advice methodically. I hired a private investigator to formally document Allison's relationship with Jake, including time-stamped photos of them together and financial records of their hotel stays. I opened a separate bank account and transferred half of our savings, leaving the other half untouched to avoid accusations of financial impropriety. I found a furnished apartment available for immediate occupancy and signed a 6-month lease. While Allison was still away with Jake, I returned home to collect essential belongings: clothes, personal documents, irreplaceable items like my grandfather's watch and family photographs. I left everything else behind, including wedding gifts and furniture we had chosen together. Material things could be replaced. My dignity and self-respect could not. Before leaving, I methodically photographed every room and made an inventory of valuable items to prevent any claims of taking more than my fair share. Then I wrote a brief note stating I had moved out, and all communication should go through my lawyer, whose contact information I included. My phone exploded with notifications the moment Allison returned home. 37 missed calls. 64 text messages ranging from confusion to anger to desperate pleas. I read none of them. Instead, I forwarded her number to my lawyer as instructed and focused on rebuilding my life. 3 days later, she appeared at our front door. Mascara streaked down her face. "You cannot just throw away 5 years of marriage," she shouted, as I stood calmly in the doorway blocking her entrance. "I did not throw it away," I replied evenly. "You did every time you chose Jake over our vows." "It meant nothing. He meant nothing," she insisted. "I love you, Gabriel. Only you. I will do anything to fix this." Once those words would have weakened my resolve. Now, they only reinforced my decision. I handed her a large envelope containing divorce papers. "My terms are fair. Half of everything we built together. I do not want alimony, and I assume you do not either given your salary. Sign these and we can both move on." "Move on?" Her voice rose hysterically. "To what? You are my husband. My life. And yet, you blocked me from yours for 2 weeks to be with another man," I reminded her. "Now I am blocking you from my future. Forever. The difference is, I am being honest about it." That phrase, blocking her from my future, became my mantra in the difficult weeks that followed. Every time doubts crept in, every time loneliness threatened to weaken my resolve, I reminded myself that I was not just ending a marriage. I was making space for a future where I would be truly valued. Allison's panic manifested in increasingly desperate attempts to reach me. When blocked from my phone, she created new email addresses to bypass filters. When those were blocked, she sent letters, sometimes 20 pages long, detailing her regrets and promises to change. When I returned them unopened, she enlisted mutual friends to plead her case. She appeared at my workplace, causing such a scene that security had to escort her out. She found my new apartment address somehow and left gifts, letters, and once disturbingly, a photo album of our wedding with her face scratched out of every picture. A bizarre attempt to demonstrate her self-loathing. The most manipulative move came when she visited my parents, sobbing about how I refused to give her a chance to explain. Fortunately, my mother, always perceptive about character, saw through the performance. "If you truly loved our son," my mother reportedly told her, "you would respect his decision and allow him the dignity of a clean break." When emotional appeals failed, Allison turned vindictive. She spread rumors among our social circle that I had been emotionally abusive. She claimed I had tracked her movements and controlled her friendships. She even suggested I had driven her to Jake's arms through neglect. Thankfully, friends who had witnessed our relationship firsthand quickly defended me, and her attempts to rewrite our history fell flat. The most concerning escalation came when she threatened self-harm if I did not at least talk to her. I immediately contacted her sister and parents, explaining the situation and urging them to get her professional help. Then I documented the threat and shared it with my lawyer, who advised me to maintain absolute no contact. Throughout this turbulent period, I remained resolute in my decision. All communication went through lawyers. All attempts at direct contact were redirected or blocked. It was the hardest boundary I had ever set, and the most necessary. My new apartment became a sanctuary for healing. Though sparsely furnished at first, just a bed, a desk, and a comfortable reading chair, it represented a fresh start unburdened by painful memories. I painted the walls a calming blue hung artwork that I chose myself, and for the first time in years made decisions without considering anyone else's preferences. Recognizing I needed professional support, I began weekly therapy sessions with Dr. Martin, a psychologist specializing in recovery from relationship betrayal. Those Tuesday evening appointments became anchors in my weak safe spaces to process my grief, anger, and gradually my hope for the future. "What you are experiencing is similar to PTSD, Dr. Martin explained during an early session. The discovery of infidelity creates a trauma response. Your brain is literally rewiring itself to understand this new reality." Under her guidance, I learned techniques to manage intrusive thoughts about Allison and Jake together. I practiced self-compassion when waves of shame or self-doubt threatened to overwhelm me. Most importantly, I began to identify the red flags I had ignored throughout our relationship. The subtle put-downs, the emotional withholding, the shifting of responsibility. "You did not fail at marriage, Doctor," Martin assured me. "You succeeded at recognizing an unhealthy relationship and having the courage to leave it." In addition to individual therapy, I joined a support group for people navigating divorce after infidelity. Hearing others' stories, some with much more devastating circumstances than mine, provided perspective and community. Many group members were further along in their healing journey, offering living proof that there was life after betrayal. Slowly, I reclaimed parts of myself that had gone dormant during my marriage. I returned to running, gradually building from frustrated 2-mile jogs to training for a half marathon. I joined a weekend hiking group, rediscovering my love for mountain trails and forest silence. I dusted off my guitar, teaching myself new songs through online tutorials. As the months passed, I rebuilt connections with friends I had unintentionally neglected. My college roommate Troy and I resumed our monthly poker nights. My cousin David invited me sailing on summer weekends. My neighbor Mark introduced me to his rock climbing group. Gradually, my social calendar filled with authentic connections that required no walking on eggshells. Professional opportunities expanded as well. Free from the constant emotional drain of my deteriorating marriage, I found new energy for creative problem-solving at work. I led a successful initiative to modernize our development infrastructure, earning recognition from senior management. By the time my divorce was finalized, a process prolonged by Allison's refusal to accept equitable terms, I had received a significant promotion and salary increase. The legal process took 14 grueling months, primarily because Allison contested everything possible, seemingly more interested in prolonging our connection than reaching resolution. When the judge finally signed our divorce decree granting a fair division of assets and no ongoing financial entanglements, I felt an overwhelming sense of both relief and validation. That evening, I hiked to a scenic overlook near my new apartment and watched the sunset over Boston Harbor. As the sky painted itself in dramatic oranges and purples, I finally deleted the last photograph of Allison from my phone, not in anger but simply because it no longer belonged in the gallery of my life. 1 year and 3 months after discovering Allison's betrayal, I was legally single again at 37. The man who emerged from that crucible was not the same person who had entered it. I was stronger, more discerning, and paradoxically more open to genuine connection. Shortly after the divorce finalized, I heard through mutual friends that Allison and Jake's relationship had imploded just 2 months after our separation. Apparently, he had been seeing multiple women simultaneously, including Allison. The irony might have been satisfying had I not moved beyond the need for vindication. True to form, Allison attempted to contact me after their breakup, sending a carefully crafted email suggesting we meet for closure. My response was brief but firm. I have already found my closure. I wish you healing and growth on your journey. As I expanded my social circles, I met Julia, another divorce survivor, with a warm laugh and thoughtful insights. Our friendship developed organically through hiking group meetups, built on mutual respect and shared experiences. Though not romantic, our connection demonstrated that emotional intimacy was still possible for me, a reassuring realization after months of self-protective isolation. Looking back at my marriage, I can now identify warning signs. I once rationalized away Allison's pattern of conflict avoidance, her disproportionate reactions to minor disappointments, her subtle undermining of my achievements. These were not character flaws to be accepted, but indicators of fundamental incompatibility I had chosen to ignore. This awareness became especially valuable when my friend Marcus confided his concerns about his fiancé's controlling behavior. Drawing from my experience without projecting my story onto his, I asked questions that helped him evaluate his relationship objectively. 2 months later, he postponed their wedding to address serious compatibility issues, a difficult decision he later thanked me for encouraging. My journey of healing continues daily. Some mornings still bring a momentary ache when I reach across an empty bed. Certain songs or restaurants still trigger memories I must consciously process and release. But these moments grow less frequent and less intense with time. 2 years after that fateful night at the Charles Hotel, I received a handwritten letter from Allison. Unlike her previous communications, this one contained no manipulation or pleas for reconciliation. Just a genuine apology, acknowledging the pain she had caused and taking full responsibility for her choices. She explained that therapy had helped her recognize destructive patterns, stemming from unresolved childhood abandonment issues, though she emphasized this understanding explained, but did not excuse her behavior. I appreciated her accountability, but felt no obligation to resume contact. Some bridges once burned should remain crossed only in memory. Today at 39, I have built a life, I genuinely love. My apartment has become a true home, filled with books, music, and occasional dinner parties for close friends. My career continues to thrive with a patent pending for a security protocol I developed. While open to partnership again someday, I no longer view being single as a temporary state to be endured, but rather as a valid life choice with its own rewards. The most profound lesson from my journey is that boundaries, even painful ones like blocking someone from your future, can be acts of self-love rather than punishment. By closing the door firmly on a relationship that brought more pain than joy, I opened myself to possibilities I could not have imagined while trapped in the cycle of betrayal and false reconciliation. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is recognize when a chapter is truly finished. Sometimes the kindest gift we can give ourselves is the courage to say this far no further. Sometimes you must close one door forever to discover which ones are meant to open. Have you ever had to make the difficult decision to remove someone toxic from your life? How did you find the strength to maintain that boundary when they tried to come back? Share your experience in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more journeys of overcoming betrayal and rediscovering self-worth. Remember, choosing yourself is never selfish. It is necessary for genuine healing. Thank you for listening, and may you have the courage to block what no longer serves you from your future.